So I'm going to hit record. So you'll get that nice notification. Okay, cool. So hi, everyone. I'll go ahead and get started now first by just sharing my screen. Okay, great. So you should be able to see my browser, and on that browser is the homepage for ABAKadabra, and it is the view of a phone. This is going to be the view or the display that I'll use throughout the presentation, because more often than not, we're probably not on our computers while working with students and collecting data. We're probably on a device of some sort. So I'm going to be taking you through the demo, kind of using the display of a phone or of a device. So I'm on the home page here, and I'll take you through the very beginning process of getting signed up and getting signed in, all the way to actually running a session and getting results from your sessions. So the first step is just getting signed up. And I know that there were a couple of questions in regards to like the organization domain name and organization name, things like that. So we'll explain all of that as well. So pretty self-explanatory here. You'll hit sign up, and this will take you to the landing page. At the top, you'll see there's the pricing information, and then below that is where you'll create your ABAKadabra account. And Craig did put together a really nice pricing calculator here. I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to see that yet, but this gives you the opportunity to kind of toggle the number of students and the students with SBT, and kind of figure out what that's going to look like per month for you. So once you have an opportunity to kind of play with that, you can hit sign up, and it'll take you right back to this page here. You'll first want to enter your organization name or your team name. It could be your company name. Essentially, you're just kind of creating a landing page for you and your team, or for you and your company. The next field asks for an organization domain name, and it gives a really good explanation of what they mean by that. But essentially, is what you're doing is creating a login URL for your team or for your organization, for your company. So for us, that would be FTFBC. From there, you'll enter your first and last name, email address, password, etc. The email address that you enter here will be the first email address that you'll use to get started with the add-on module or the application. So after you finish completing all these fields, this email address should get a confirmation email, and from there you should be able to sign in. So there are two ways to sign in. I'll go ahead and explain those quickly for you guys. So you can go from the home page here, you can click sign in. It'll take you to this page where it'll prompt you to enter that organization domain that you created. You'd hit continue. And then from here, you'll enter the email address that you signed up with and the password. You can also just go ahead and type in that organization domain name into the URL box at the top of the screen there. And when you do that, you'll come to the same landing page where you'll enter your email address and then your password. And from there, you'll get signed in. Now, the first page it'll take you to is the students page. At this point, after signing up, you only have that one email address associated with the organization. If you want to add more teachers, I'm going to show you quickly just how to do that before we get into adding students. So at the top right-hand corner, the three bars here, you'll click that. You'll hit teachers, and then you'll add teachers from there. You can enter their first and last name and their email address, and then you'll just want to hit this button here, which will send them a little welcome email, and it'll allow them to get signed on. And when they get signed on, they'll be directed to that organization domain name that you created. So everyone will be logging in underneath the same organization. And this allows for some really cool opportunities for collaboration, because everyone underneath the org domain will be able to see all of the students. This allows like great opportunities, for example, for IOA purposes, if you want to go in and be able to see the data in, happening in the moment, but the data that's being recorded, things like that. So really great opportunities for collaboration. Now let's talk about adding a student profile. So if you come back to the students page, at the top right-hand corner, this is pretty similar to how you add a teacher. You'll just hit add a new student. And as you can tell, I've done this a few times because it's auto-populating for me. Well, you'll enter their first and last name, create student, and it'll take you to their homepage. When you first create a student, you'll see it says view skill acquisition targets, launch teacher view, connect student view. You want to be seeing one additional bar that says go to skill-based treatment. So we'll need to get that bar on their homepage. Is what you'll do to do that is come back up to the menu, and you're going to scroll down to the marketplace, go to add-on modules, and then skill-based treatment. And then at the top right-hand corner, you just want to hit the plus button here. And it's going to have this little pop-up for you. Do you want to activate the add-on module? You'll search for your student that you just created. And then go ahead and accept. And at this point, the add-on module should now be on your students page. So if I go back to students, and if I find my Facebook demo student here, you'll see that the go to skill-based treatment bar is now on his homepage. So when I click that, this opens up to this SBT configuration page, and you can see that everything's blank. So there's no information for CAB branches, implementer, location, or anything like that. This is all blank. And to save you kind of the bore of watching me type everything out, I'm going to just hop on over to a student that I've already created. And this is just a mock student. Really quick, I'm going to do that. So this is my mock student. At the top right-hand corner, you should see AB. Those are just my initials. And this is what it looks like when it is all filled out. So we have description, implementer, SR materials, ER materials, etc. So these are all the qualitative aspects of treatment, really. And now I'm going to go ahead and show you just how to get all of that information on this homepage for your student. So you're on the SBT configuration. The config is underlined with the red here. And there's two icons. There's a refresh icon and this pencil icon. You're just going to hit this top one right here, which allows you to edit your skill-based treatment. This will bring you to the first of two pages. The first is modifying your skill-based treatment, really looking at the aspects of skill-based treatment, your descriptions for SFCR, CFCR, tolerance response, CAB1, as well as information about your EO progression and EO materials. The modified CAB branches is the second page, which you'll go to next, and that's where you can edit the specifics about your CAB branches, individualize those CAB branches for your student. Recording. Okay. So you'll see here we have our synthesized reinforcement materials, or those materials that we have during reinforcement contexts, EO materials, interactions, EO initialization. That sounds funny when I'm saying it, but that's really just like your EO progression. It gives you an opportunity to input all the information about problem behavior. What are your R2s and your R1s? And it goes all the way down to teaching procedure. Now, these are all, you can edit these. So you would just click the field and you can edit them to be specific to meet your student or your client's needs. And you can hit enter. There's tons of space to really input a lot of different information, however much you think is necessary for this student. And you might notice that a lot of these fields are really similar fields to you that you see on the workbooks, right? So things that you've already put into the ISCA design and to your different CAB branches within the SBT workbook, you can kind of just copy and paste over into the application, which is really nice. So you'll have everything in one spot. So this doesn't just go through and collect all of your data, but it also keeps all of the relevant information to your treatment within one spot. And initially, you might be the implementer and the designer of the CABs and everything, so you might just know this by heart. But as you get to introducing more people on the team or introducing treatment across novel people, having this information at one spot is going to be really helpful. All right, so now we get down into the individualization of the simple functional communicative response, complex toleration response, and CAB1. And you'll notice here, there's fields to kind of give the expected response, the description of the expected response. So for simple FCR, I just chose, excuse me, complex FCR, excuse me, my way, please. This should also look familiar. This looks really similar to the SBT workbook, right? You have the delay denial signal, tolerance description, Cab 1, what is that going to be? So you've inputted all of that, and then you probably can't help but notice this advanced options button, and what does that mean? So let's talk briefly about that. I may not go into great detail about it right now, but I just want to kind of explain what this all means when you see it. So for the simple FCR, when you click that, you'll see SFCR should advance expression. When you click CFCR, you'll see things like reward probability, regress, and advance. These are all just kind of code names for things like randomization of skills, mastery criteria per teaching step, and also regress criteria. So, how many incorrects in a row before you want to go back to the previous step. And then also we'll look at no preemptive prompt probe probability. So down here, you'll see that no preemptive prompt probe probability. So how often do you want to have no preemptive prompt probes within treatment? Is it going to be 1 out of every 5 trials or 2 out of every 5 trials? Things like that. These can all be individualized for your student. The nice thing, though, is that it's already configured to kind of match like general guidelines. So for example, mastery criteria about 3 independent consecutive responses. We're moving on to the next level. The automated configuration is set to that for you. You'll notice here, if we go to the reward probability expression, that's kind of talking about the randomization of skills, or how often you want to reward a CFCR, and it says 0.2, so that's about 20% of the time. So it's already set to those general guidelines, so you don't really need to do anything to it unless you want to individualize it a bit more to fit your students' needs or to fit treatment. So from there, after you've kind of inputted all of the description for tolerance response, CAB 1, etc., you'll hit next. And this will take you to the page where you can modify your CAB branches. Now, I just want to point out that at this point, all the information that you inputted within the modify skill-based treatment section is not saved. So I made the mistake of completing all that, coming to this page, and then I hopped on a Zoom call, came back, and I had logged out, so I lost everything. So if you don't want that to happen to you, especially if you're like on site working with kids and getting pulled away often, you might just want to hit update SBT. It'll bring you back to the SBT config homepage. You'll just hit edit, and you'll see all of your information was saved. I just wanted to point that out in case you don't want to run into that problem. All right, so now we're on to the CAB branch configuration, where you can really edit your different CAB branches, whether that's one CAB branch or multiple CAB branches. You can see I already have 2 on the screen. My first is an academics type of CAB branch, and my second is a leisure activities. If you wanted to add a new CAB branch, you would hit add new CAB branch down here. And when you do so, it takes you to a really similar page like this. It will give you fields to enter what's the name of the CAB branch, what's the description. You can write something very simple like I did, or you can write the actual terminal goal like we do within the workbook. There's similar advanced options here. So these advanced options are going to look at things like likelihood weight. So how often do you want to run that CAB branch? Do you want to run it, once out of every 5 trials or 3 out of every 5 trials? You can go in and edit that. But again, it's going to be set to a automatic configuration. So you don't have to. It's just if you want to go in there and kind of edit with that or play with that. You also have the ability to modify. I can hear myself all of a sudden, sorry. Okay, so you also have the ability to modify the different descriptions for each CAB. So CAB 2, I have stand up, walk to desk, sit down, fold hands. CAB 3, open up binder, pull out worksheet, write name on worksheet. All of this information I just had within my workbook, and I was able to just copy and paste right on over, which was really helpful. CAB 4. So you can see it gives you plenty of space to input all of the information that you would like. And from there, you'll just hit update CAB branch. So now we have our skill-based treatment, all of the specifics about treatment, and then we have our CAB branches at this point all created. So we're going to go ahead and hit update SBT, and this will take us back to our home page. And the next thing to do would be to go ahead and get started with sessions. But what you might want to do before then is just kind of go through your homepage, make sure everything looks accurate. One thing I like to check before I get started is the current target. So what am I currently targeting when I get started with treatment? Right now you can see it says CAB branch, CAB 2+. So let's say, for example, I just imported all of this information and I'm actually at complex FCR. I can come in here and edit that to say complex FCR, save level. Now, instead of targeting any of the CAB 2+, it'll just focus on CFCR for right now. So that is how you would modify your current target, which is also helpful, if you, you know what, never mind. I'll mention this. I'll mention what I was going to mention at a later time. Let's go ahead and just get started with running a session now, which is the fun part. All right. So at the top of the screen here, you'll hit session and you'll hit start session. And I do feel like once you get to this part of using the add-on module, it starts to become pretty easy. It's very user-friendly, but I'll just still go ahead and point out all of the really cool features while running your session. You'll see it says state SR. That's just essentially your synthesized reinforcement contingency or your context. It gives you the ability to collect data on your R1s and your R2s. And it also gives you the ability to mark whether they were happy, relaxed, and engaged for most of the synthesized reinforcement period. So that's the data that you can collect during your synthesized reinforcement. So right now we're in synthesized reinforcement, and this is the display that you'll get while you're in that context. It also is going to show you your next EO plan. So it's going to show you what is coming up when you present your EO, what you should go ahead and target during your next EO presentation. You can see the CAB branch is set to automatic. The no preemptive prompt probe is set to automatic. It would tell you yes if it was planning to run a no preemptive prompt probe. And then the current target CFCR, and it also gives you the description of that current target. So we'll go ahead and hit yes for most of the SR period and start EO. And now we're in the EO. You can see it says state EO, so we're in the EO context. We're running leisure activities, but at this point, we're just looking for a communicative response. Let's say this is our first time doing it, so we have to prompt. So we'll hit prompt and then save and continue. Takes us back into the synthesized reinforcement. And again, giving you your next EO plan. I guess we'll say prompt one more time. And then happy, relaxed, and engaged, yes, start EO. So now it's actually, and I missed this, but now it actually just gave me a no preemptive prompt probe. So let's say in real life you did miss that they were going to give you a no preemptive prompt probe and you were like, no, no way, I'm not ready for that. You can just go ahead and say, okay, hey, this is all done. And you've already prompted CFCR a few times. So maybe this time they actually emit their CFCR correctly. So you say independent and then you hit save and continue. You can edit that data. So let's say that happened to you in real life. You can actually edit that. So what you'll do from there is go to results. And you can see this last data point, and I know this, and then just expand this a little bit. You can see this last data point here, the X's that it has. This is showing you that, all you ran was a CFCR, and then your tolerance response, CAB 1, CAB 2, and CAB 6 were incorrect. Well, I didn't even target anything past the CFCR. I knew that my student wasn't quite ready for that. So I'll come down to this data point, and over, I'm going to have to expand this a little bit. There we go. So if you scroll over on the screen, you'll see the actions button in the edit here. And you can come to, when you hit edit, it'll pop open this window. And you'll notice it says is no preemptive prompt probe. You can just hit no. And then the goal CAB type, see how it says CAB 6? I can just actually change that to a CFCR and then update my trial to reflect exactly what I did during that trial. So we'll hit update trial. And then the raw data here is reflected, and then it's also reflected on your graph. Now you might be in session, so you might not want to do that in the midst of your session, but that is how you would do that. So you can always go back and do that at a later time too. You don't have to do it right then. All right, so I'm going to go back to session. We'll go back to results and kind of explain how to look at those graphs here in just a second, but let's go back and you'll actually see All right, we're still in synthesized reinforcement, and within this section here over on our next EO plan. Sorry, guys. You'll see that the no preemptive prompt probe is set to yes. If you don't want to do that and you catch it before you actually start your EO trial, and like I just did, you can just hit shuffle new plan, and that'll bring you to a different plan. The no preemptive prompt probe is now set to no. Your target is still CFCR, and you're running an academics branch. Yes, start EO, and let's say they got another correct response, save and continue. And I'll just do this again, click here. Again, you can see my no preemptive prompt probe is set to no. Another correct, save and continue. Notice here at the bottom, it automatically updated my level to tolerance response. So I went and got 3 correct responses of FCR in a row. So it automatically updated the SBT level to tolerance response. And that is that automatic configuration at play. So as long as you're cool with that, then you can keep going with treatment and go ahead and jump into tolerance response next, which is what's reflected here in the next EO plan. Happy racks engaged for most of synthesized reinforcement, start EO, correct for CFCR, and a prompt for tolerance response. Let's say maybe there was an R2. Save and continue. And then again, down here, your next EO plan, there's no preemptive prompt probe. And let's say, going back to my last thought where I was saying, you know, if you're okay with going on with tolerance response, then you would leave as is. Let's say you weren't, you wanted one more correct CFCR before you went to tolerance response. You can change that here by going to where it says automatic and fixing that by just hitting CFCR. So then it'll go back to CFCR and it'll keep you there until you manually update it to go back to tolerance response or automatic. So even though those automatic configurations are at play, you can still always be manually editing, you know, what step you're at and how you're kind of running your treatment or your session. Start EO. Okay. So I want to go ahead and go back to the configuration page. I'll go ahead. When you're ending your session, you obviously would just hit end session and go back to the configuration page. And this current target here is another space where you can manually edit what target you're on. So before we came in and we put CFCR. Right now, the app has us automatically going to tolerance response. But let's say you inputted all this information, your student's already on a CAB 2 with a couple of different branches. You would just hit CAB branch, CAB 2 plus, save level. And then underneath CAB branches right here, it gives you the ability to edit each CAB branch, what target you want. So you may not be on the same CAB per target or same target per CAB. So you can edit that here. So academics, I'm on CAB 3, leisure activities, I'm on CAB 5, and I can always modify that if I needed to. I'm gonna go back to session and just start a session so you guys can see what some higher level CABs might look like. All right, so you can see this is just a CAB 1, but it says put item in Ben. It gives the instruction there. If I were to go to like a CAB 6, for example, what's really cool here is that you have your CAB 2, and then you're not seeing CAB 3, CAB 4, CAB 5. It automatically shows you just CAB 6 because the app knows, and it's showing you how many work units as well to target. So I think that's pretty cool. It's giving you, rather than having to do that randomization in your own head when working through your sessions, it'll kind of prompt you as to how many work units to target. And then go ahead and hit start EO, and you'll see when you're collecting data, it looks very similar to how we've seen as well. So independent correct responses over here. I'm going to say prompts, save and continue. Okay. So that's kind of what it looks like while collecting data. I think I'll go ahead and show you guys now the no preemptive prompt probe, what it looks like when you do decide to run one of those. So whether it's automatically populated for you, or if you want to go in and you're kind of like, okay, I want to try no preemptive prompt probe, do a cold probe here to see what my student has already. All right, so we'll just hit happy, relax, and engage, start EO, and they emit their FCR, their tolerance response, their CAB 1, and their CAB 2. But then they get to the desk and you ask them to pull out their binder and they're like, nope, I'm not doing that. And they have a couple R2s. So that's when you say, okay, never mind. You can go back to your reinforcement. That's what that data would look like. That's exactly how you could collect that data. Okay. So now I'll go ahead and pull open results. I hope I didn't go too fast through the data collection there, but hopefully you got the gist. It's very user-friendly and pretty easy to work with once you're inside the applications or the add-on module. So you can see your sessions and your trials have all been graphed here for you, which is another awesome thing about this add-on module. You see the R1s and the R2s, your simple FCR, your complex FCR, etc. These little dashes, these phase change lines, are just the sessions. So you can see the number of trials being done per session, which is also pretty cool. The X's are when something was incorrect, and the open circles are prompted, just like the SBT graph through Excel. You can also come up here. So this is the results page, EO trials. You can come up to this little button, and when you click that, it will give you the opportunity to filter through the CAB branches. If you click CAB branch, you can see you can kind of filter between academics and leisure activities. So if I just wanted to see what's going on with academics, I could click that and this will show me just my academics branch, the data for that branch. Same with leisure activities and the data for my leisure activities. It also, you can also look at your sessions, specifically how long you're in the EO for the session and how long you're in the synthesized reinforcement, the duration of both of those contexts during your session. So ideally, I know this is just a demo, so this isn't like a great example. Ideally, your SR duration might be high towards the beginning of treatment, but you would see that kind of come down while the duration that your students spending in EO increase. And then you can also hover, going back to the EO trials, you can also hover over each trial here to see the specifics. So if you're looking at this graph has both academics and leisure, but maybe you just kind of want to look at one data point here. You can see this was leisure activities, whereas the next was leisure activities. Maybe they're all leisure activities. No, there we go, academics. And then down here, you kind of saw this before, but down here is the raw data for the session. And we looked at how to edit that data. You can also delete that data if you needed to. So for example, the session where or the trial that I showed you where I came in and edited it, if you wanted to just scratch that one altogether, you could just come in and click a little box over here and hit delete selected data. And I think that's about it in regards to session trials and looking at the results. I don't think am I missing anything, Tony or Craig?
Well, first of all, you're doing a fabulous job. I'm very, very thrilled at your presentation here. I think you've covered most of the basics. We got a few questions that came in that can help drive the conversation a little further. And I think we've collected a few questions that came in over Facebook and through Slack. But really superb job, Alex. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Give her a
Wonderful. Yeah, Ed and I have been writing down all the questions that have been coming in. I also had a lot of questions that I wrote down for myself, so I'll be asking mine as well. I think if you're ready to go into questions, we can do that. I'm going to let Ed go first with the pre-collected questions that we had, and then I'll follow up with all the live questions that we had.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. So, am I muted still or no?
You're good.
I'm good. Can this be used without Wi-Fi? One question.
No, unfortunately.
No.
I can't. And I know that I think we saw that question too. And I know Craig put together some really nice information that he's going to have on the website in regards
Maybe.
to.
Yeah, maybe we can have Craig offer up some of the rationales for why we chose to go this route.
Yeah, 1 second. Can you all hear me?
Yep, we gotcha.
Okay, I just posted a link to frequently asked questions, and yeah, that's at the top. It's do we need to be connected to the internet for that? And one of the main reasons why we chose to do that, because it does have some disadvantages, like you need to be connected to the internet, and also this is another thing about paying a monthly subscription fee instead of just paying one time for the software. But some of the advantages that you really get out of that is have basically a single source of truth for the student data. And as app works is it's basically all running on a server in the cloud, and your browser, your device is just a simple interface connected to that. And so that gives us a couple other advantages where if we want to collaborate, multiple teachers want to be running the same trial, is the session is streamed to both devices at once. So even if you yourself want to run the session on multiple devices, let's say when you're an EO, you want your phone collecting data, but when you're an R, you want to.
Hey, Craig, just 1 sec. We kind of lost your.
This state is maintained in real time. Some other things is security considerations is if you are just a small organization, it might not be a big deal, but as you're a growing organization and getting bigger, somebody loses their device or a device is stolen, then if you're just running the app on your device and you're not connected to the internet, then you could lose all of that valuable data. Whereas with this, everything is being saved at all times to the cloud, so you always have access to that data. Another problem with security is let's say you have to fire someone from your organization. Let's say they were doing something inappropriate, I don't know. But if you fire them, then you could lose that employee still has access to the data if it's on their device, or you could just lose that data from your organization and you won't have it anymore. And so with it always updating in the cloud is you have the advantage of if someone leaves your organization abruptly, you can immediately block access for them. At the same time, you retain all of that data nicely within your organization, so you don't have to worry about that. So those are the main reasons, the main considerations why we decided to design it this way.
Thank you, Craig. That was very good. I think we mostly got what you or the gist of what you were saying. There's a lot of security benefits for doing it this way. But your voice did break out. You fell out for just a little bit there. So if someone missed an important point, we would be happy to revisit a portion of that if you need us to. Just throw it into the chat and we'll get to it. While that's happening, Ed, let's go back to you.
Yep. One question, I think I can actually answer this one. Is it compatible with iPad? And I believe it is, because it's just going to you type it into the domain address, right? So that's, you can do it on really any kind of device as long as you can type in the www. Right? Can the data be exported to use in treatment plans?
Yes, I've actually that was on my list to talk about and I forgot. So good question. So there's a couple ways to export this data. There's the option of downloading the results as CSV, and what that will do is kind of pull everything into an Excel document, and it will be the raw data from your sessions and the different trials. You can also save this as a PDF. You can hit the printer button right here. And can you see what I'm seeing in regards to the print page?
Yes. It looks
okay, perfect. So the destination, instead of your printer, you would just hit save as PDF and save that file. And this is what it would look like over here for you. So it would include the trial by trial data as well as the graph from the app.
Cool.
And there was one other piece that I think was important. In order to get it into your, like if you're having Central Reach as your data platform, we can get the data out for you, but you're going to need a way to get it into the other application that you're using. So it has to play on both sides. And then Alex, you were mentioning something about taking a screenshot. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I was thinking specifically in regards to like if you wanted to insert the graph in your treatment plan or your IEP or behavior intervention plan, potentially, just from the website, you can grab a screenshot of the graph. I'm trying to like make this bigger for you guys. There we go. So you could potentially just grab a screenshot of the graph, or when you're saving this as a PDF, you can also grab it as a screenshot from your PDF as well. But I think that gives you an opportunity to just grab the graph and then kind of copy and paste that into your treatment plan, if that's helpful for things like that.
Excellent, very good. What else you got, Ed?
Next, well, one of them was already answered. What is the cost? And the next question is there a discount for companies with many users?
Let's stay on the initial part of the cost so that we can make sure that everybody understands how that works. And then Craig will be able to talk a little bit about the company.
Oh, you want me to take that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so as far as the cost goes, let me share a page. As Alex already showed.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost it. 1 second. Okay, here we go. So as Alex already shared, here's the pricing calculator. And so what we try to do with the pricing is we try to keep it as simple as, oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you got to share your screen now.
Oh.
I can share mine again and pull up.
Okay, do you have
that's helpful. Or I think I'll just, maybe not, sorry. Okay.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, so this is the pricing calculator. And so we try to keep our pricing as simple as possible. And so basically the way that it works is the base price, you're going to be paying $10 a month per student. And that's to get you access to ABAKadabra and all the things that it offers, including the SPT. And then with the SPT, you're going to be adding on another $5 a month per student. So let's say you have 5 students, if you want to move that. And then we have SPT enabled for 3 of them. Then we can see it's going to be about $65 a month. So the storage costs are in there too, but chances are you won't even hit those. But basically what we wanted to do is we want to make the pricing as fair and as simple as possible. So the thing is we didn't want to charge a lot initially and then say later on, if you have a very large organization, we can give you a discount, because that seems unfair for smaller organizations where the smaller ones are basically subsidizing the bigger ones. And then on the flip side of that is some companies, they make the initial signups basically free, but then the big companies who are using it a lot, they make them pay and subsidize for the smaller ones. So we just kind of wanted to make it as fair as possible. So we're just starting out with the $10 a month per student for any number of students, and $5 a month for the SPT add-on. If your organization does have any special constraints or considerations or something like that, then we are open to discussing maybe doing a price discount, but generally we're not offering one at this time.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. Okay, Ed, what you got?
That was the questions that I had from that thread.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any Slack questions, Tony, that you want to ask?
I think Alex has pulled any of those if she hasn't already built them into her presentation. Was there anything outstanding?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. I got lots of questions, so I want to make sure we can get through as many as we can. All right, so starting out, Emily D asked, is the ISCA app going to remain separate from this, or is it integrated? Do you still want to do your PFA on that app and then come over to this app for treatment?
I'll take this one. So the ISCA app was developed by Garage 94, a wonderful company and a wonderful group of practitioners in Italy. And we absolutely love that app. It's done very well for folks for a long time now. Coincidentally, they independently developed a SBT app that they just posted notice of it being in beta testing. So we wish them well and admire the work that they're doing. But there are two applications that are going to be on the market for serving the same function. Does that answer your question?
Great, thank you. Yeah, so if you want to run your PFA on an app, you would run it on your ISCA app and only the ISCA app, and then you could come over to this app for treatment. They wouldn't be integrated.
That's right. Okay,
great. I have a couple of questions that came to mind as Alex was going through all of this, which thank you, Alex, you did an amazing job. I was like a little overwhelmed, but I can tell that it's very fluent, that once you start using it, it would feel really comfortable. So one of my biggest questions, we know that once we get into actually doing this, things can change on a dime, just unexpectedly, right? So what if you need to change your CFCR, your TR during teaching? Like you get 5 or 6 trials in, you realize you've got a dud, you need to change your response. Then what do you do? Or if you're same thing, the same question applies for cabs. Like let's say you're going through cab 2 and you realize that the cab 2 transition is actually a cab 6, and so you're going to change your cab 2 steps. Can you walk us through what that might look like?
Yeah, let me sign back in quickly here. Okay. So I think that, there's a couple ways to answer that question. I think that if you are the sole implementer and the person managing the materials and the app here, the best thing to do would probably be, when you can, maybe you make that moment of the decision and you want to go in later on and edit it. You can just come back to the SBT configuration page and hit edit and come back in here and edit what you think your SFCR will be or your complex FCR will be. And that's probably the easiest way to go about it, just thinking about when you're in the moment and in session and if you're the sole person doing everything. But what's great about the way that this is set up with each organization having their own domain, multiple users can join, and multiple users can be looking at a student's skill-based treatment protocol, as you see on the screen, as well as the session that's currently ongoing in that moment. So if you have 2 people, one person is implementing and the other person's collecting data and making those updates, they can go in during the session and make those changes without messing up the other person's screen by in any way. So like, for example, Hillary, if you are the implementer right now and you're running your FCR and we realize we need to not do vocal, but do gesture instead, I could come in here and I can edit this and just say like tap chest, and then come down here, next, update SBT. Meanwhile, you're in session, nothing changes for you except for maybe you hit shuffle new plan and now you see the CFCR is updated to say tap chest. So that's pretty cool. 2 users being able to be in there at the same time while a session is going and to make those changes on the fly, I think is probably the most efficient way to go about it. But I also think, if you're the sole implementer, you can kind of just go in, the sole implementer and the sole person taking data and everything, you can kind of just go in afterwards and update it.
Cool. And Britt asked my follow-up question, which is there going to be, if you do that, is there a phase change line or something on the graph that would note that that you had changed your condition?
Mm-hmm.
Or your response?
No, I don't think so. And I was thinking the same thing. And, I was thinking like what might be a good idea in the moment is to end your session and then start again, because when you come to results, it'll create that phase change line. And then potentially you might want to, you could, make the decision from there if you want to get rid of the previous data or if you want to print it out and put it into your system and edit it your own way, but kind of know that phase change line is where you change things. That might be one like workaround, I guess, but no, there's no way to go in and have actual phase change lines for that.
Cool. Okay, great. Thank you. And then another question I have is, I noted the SR you have, are the HRE most of the period, the R1s and R2s. Is there a graph for that, the SR period, to graph the behaviors? And if so, can we see what it looks like?
Yes.
Jeremy, I think I'm asking the question you're asking. So if you're in your SR condition and you say, yeah, they were HRE most of the time, or maybe they weren't, but they had finally got there, and maybe you were in your SR condition for, I don't know, 7 minutes, and you had 4 R2s. Would that show that rate of R2s on your graph?
I actually don't know that answers that. Craig, and Tony, do you know? That's a really good question.
So as far as showing the rate of R2s, by default, we don't show that. But if you want to do any kind of advanced data analysis on the stuff that we do have, if you scroll to the top, there's a download button. And this isn't super convenient, but the download button, that'll download a CSV file. So basically, an Excel spreadsheet, and you can do whatever data analysis you want with that data.
Awesome.
And I do know that I noticed this earlier. So during the raw data trial by trial data here, you'll see it does have SR circled, and if you weren't happy, relaxed, and engaged, it would be red. And then you see how it says R2s. So if more than one happened, it will say R2s, and if just one happened, it will say R2.
Okay, great.
So there's some data there for that, but not on the graph, more on the raw data.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Sorry, a lot of questions were answered as we went. Bethany J asks, how do you collect data for, I guess the question is, can you collect data for skill acquisition targets that are not the actual CAB branch, but it's the skill acquisition? So those 10 plus responses, can you collect data on if those 10 responses were correct or incorrect for the actual skill that you're targeting?
I can jump in for that one.
Okay.
It's set up similarly to how the current data sheets are. So you take, we don't presume to want to know how you're going to collect your data for your various skill acquisition programs. So we don't deliberately build that into the app. This is just for collecting data related to performance within SBT, especially when you consider that most of what we're looking for in the branches, it's cooperation, not necessarily accuracy. However, Craig, you might be able to pivot on this just a little bit to talk about what some of the other features of the ABAKadabra engine offer.
Sure thing. Yeah, so Alex, if you're driving here, sorry to throw a curveball at you, but can you open up the student page, the regular student page? So one of we could go to the student that you've been using. I think it's the AB one. Yeah, so one of the main functionalities besides SBT that we offer is skill acquisition. And so the way that we do that is we have trainings and assessments and also skill observation targets and way to package them together. And so what's neat about this is you can connect a student device, and then you have your teacher device, and the teacher device is running the sessions that show up on the student view. So to get started, Alex, if you want to click Connect Student View. So we see this QR code, which is probably bad to display with such a big chat, but basically what this is if you scan this barcode with a camera on your device, then it opens up a link that you can open to launch the student view on the student's device. So Alex, if you just click Launch Student View in New Tab, then that'll just open it up here. So it says waiting for teacher. It's not actually doing anything yet. So if you go back to the first tab, and so that should be on the student's device. And then back in the first tab, you can click away from that to close it. Yeah, okay, let's go to View Skill Acquisition Targets at the top. We don't have any configured yet, but we can add one with the Add button at the top. If you click Search for Skill Acquisition Program to assign, let's do Receptive Matching Colors to get started, and then assign that program. You don't worry about display name, that's fine for now. So here we can see the program that we have for the student. And if you scroll down, we could see we have trainings that cover a bunch of different colors. And then we have the assessment at the bottom to test all the colors. If you scroll back up to the top, then let's say we know the student doesn't know their colors yet. So let's just start the training and we'll randomly go through all the different targets. So then if you click teacher view, yeah, right there. Then we could see this is what the teacher sees on their device. And if you click the student view, the tab up at the top, we can see this is the training that the student is seeing on the device. And so the instructor can walk them through the training. And so this one, it starts out pretty simple. It's select orange. It's kind of hard to fail this one because it takes up the whole screen. So if you click on that, then it'll jump to the next one. And purple, same thing. Since we're just getting started, it's very easy when you start out. But if we keep going, yeah, so there's a couple colors, so it's going to start out pretty easy. Yeah, we'll just keep going a little bit. So you saw the red was a little bit smaller. And so for each of the targets, as they get better at it, it starts getting more and more difficult until we get to the final one. So yeah, sorry, there's too many colors in this one. But see, green gets smaller, and let's do green. And yeah, so the way that, and keep going, yeah. So the way that we can configure this stuff too is you see when it shows green, oh, here we go, green again. So now it's in a field of 3 and 2 of them are wrong. So if the student starts making mistakes, or if the teacher is recording that we're prompting a lot, it'll start sending the training back into the easier modes. But as they get it more and more correct, the way that this specific training is configured is it starts with a field of 1 very big that shrinks down to a field of 3, to a field of 4, and then to a field of 5. And once they're comfortable doing it with a field of 5 with all the different colors, then you can run the assessment at the end again and say, are we sure that the student is doing well with this? So the way that this works is, yeah, it gets harder while they're doing better. It gets easier while they're messing up a little bit. And so it helps you kind of track where their skills lie for this specific training. And so the thing is with this stuff, what makes this really special is all of this, we're working to provide more content packs, but all of this is completely configurable. You can configure all this from scratch. So right now we're just doing a really simple one with colors, but you can add images. We provide some images, but you can also add your own images to make custom trials for each of the students. And so one thing, for example, is let's say you want to do receptive matching with family members. So you have a specific student and you want to say, I want to match the word mom with an actual picture of the student's mom. I want to match the word dad with dad. I want to match Uncle Nasser, for example, with his Uncle Nasser, and things like that. So you can really go wild on configuring a lot of this stuff. And we do have documentation for that. One thing to consider is there is a bit of a learning curve on configuring some of these things since it is very flexible. So one of the things we're working on right now is trying to get as much content out there for you all to just use with the app. And so this is the stuff that you're paying the $10 for. This is part of the stuff that you're paying the $10 for that's not directly related to SPT. And so that's what we're looking at. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that now.
Very good. Thank you so much, Craig. That was very helpful.
Awesome. Another question I have is, if you are implementing with more than one person, can you break down your treatment per implementer so that, like, let's say I'm running treatment, but then also have a tech running treatment, that I can see those sessions as separate teachers for the same student?
So a lot of the overall data, it's shared across the teachers. And this could be when we filter based on the specific CAB branches. We could also filter based on teacher. But Alex, if you click on the results header, if you scroll down, or sorry, scroll down to the table. Yeah, I'll go to the top of the table. I'm sorry. It says results with a little bar next to it. If you click on that, then you can select started by, and that'll show you who started each of these trials and who started the sessions. And a lot of the app works in the same way.
Cool. Follow up on that. If you have implementers at different levels, right? Like you've gotten to CAB 6 and you've started someone on a new level, how would you do that? Like they're starting out at CFCR, for example, they're the first generalization target.
So then I think it would, and Craig, if you have other thoughts, I think they would just want to come in here and before they get started running a session, so we'll just end our session there. They'll want to make sure that their current target is matches where they are at within treatment with that student. So if they're not quite at CAB 2s across branches, they might want to come down and just go to tolerance response because that's where they're at, save level. And then that's where treatment will start for them once they go into session and start their session. It'll start with CFCR and then just go up to tolerance response.
Awesome. And that gives me a follow-up question again, sorry. What if you are not yoking your branches together? So what if you have one branch that's moving on without another branch? How would you do that? Could you?
So do you mean like if one is
like let's say you are doing you introduce one branch to start and it's at CAB 4 and you've decided we're increasing treatment, we're adding another branch starting off at CFCR, for example. How would you run those at separate levels?
Oh, the app will automatically know where you are at what level you're at with regard to each branch. So
you can set it manually for the branch. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool.
Right. Yes, they'll progress independent. The branches will progress independently of one another.
Oh, cool. Okay, awesome.
But please correct me if I'm wrong, Alex or Craig.
No, I think that's right. And I think that's why, too, when you come to the modified skill-based treatment, you're only going up to CAB 1 and not past, because I think we're kind of assuming, too, that FCR, tolerance response, and CAB 1 might look pretty similar across multiple branches. But once you get to CAB 2, that's where it's probably going to look quite different, depending on, you might be going to the bathroom to do not leisure, but hygiene. Oh, man. It's 7 o'clock. For us, can you tell?
Oh, that was great. Okay, awesome. So then if you were to add a new branch on there, you'd add a new branch and you would start out at the CFCR and then it would go separately from the other branches. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question, I think, and then that's it. Is from Alicia. She says, sometimes Alicia, I almost want to ask you to unmute and ask this question yourself because I feel like you understand your question better than I do. Do you mind talking?
No, not at all.
I'm so happy to see your face.
Hey. I'm just wondering, because I end up sometimes having like a CAB 7 or 8 that like stacks on top. Like, is there any way to add things to your task analysis above and beyond CAB 6?
No, not at this time. I think that maybe what you could do is, I'm trying to think like the easiest way to do that would probably be to come into and edit your CAB branch and maybe edit like your CAB 6 here. So maybe modify and say like what your CAB 7 is and what your CAB 8 is potentially as a workaround. I don't know, Craig, if you have any other ideas. That's just the first thing that comes to my mind. And then I know we talked a little bit about those automatic configurations. So it might say that this is mastered after a certain amount of consecutive responses, but you can always go in and manually change that to be another certain amount, or just keep it at CAB 6 and keep running.
What do you do differently in CAB 7 and 8? Like what? Are they just more challenges or are they extensions?
Like adaptive skills that are more differentiated that I want to chain. Like I want to be a part of the chain. I don't want to teach them separately and necessarily like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sure. It sounds like it's like adding in new challenges or stretching the chain a little longer, essentially. I think you could do it as Alex just mentioned.
You may also want like you could create a new branch and your CAB 2 could be up to CAB 6 of branch whatever, and then your 3, 4, 5 could be the additional
what
steps.
I would have to do for the like the differentiated, because like the trial within the trial kind of idea where you like have like this like say an elusive EO that is popping up and causing sudden R1s. You can teach a specific man for that, and then it ends up you're in CAB 4, and then the EO pops up and you prompt that and it's like a branch off, but that's.
That's great. Wow, we learn something every day.
Stacking those things on top of each other. Yeah.
Well, maybe for the sake of efficiency, if we missed any questions, maybe we can just ask someone to raise their hand or to prompt us again in the chat if we've missed anything. Just want to make sure.
Let me know. Yeah, if you have any last questions, I wrote everything down that was in the chat. So yeah, please ask your questions if you still have them.
Okay. And while they're thinking and we're waiting on that, I'm just going to take a moment to thank the community for engaging tonight and for helping us think, creating some challenges for us to discover new ways that we perhaps maybe haven't even thought about how the app could be used. Really, and realize this is the release of version 1.0. We're always looking to learn and to get better. So I'd also like to just thank all of my FTF colleagues who have contributed many hours over the last several years to help improve the process. And for Craig, for all of the work that you've done behind the scenes, coming to us as a programmer. I want to get him out there in the community and have him run some therapy, because I think he knows this stuff inside and out, perhaps more so than some of the other folks that we might come across. So Craig's really appreciate it. And then finally to Alex, just wonderful presentation. You're fantastic at delivering information and making it accessible for people to understand. So back to you, Hillary.
Thanks. I really appreciate you guys allowing us to host you here. We really love the collaboration we get to have with FTF and be able to share this with everyone. We have 2 more questions. I'm going to let the question askers just turn on their mics and ask. The first one's from Megan Crowley. I don't know how to say your last name. You're just Megan. Crowley.
Hi.
Hey.
I was wondering if there's a way to indicate if you surprised Shorty anywhere.
Yes. There you go. Oh, I lost my screen. Okay, let's see. I don't think so. I had to double check. I was wondering if it said down here. I know it will show you in the next EO plan, but it's not necessarily in regards to like if you run a CAB 6, but you only expect one response.
There's the way to do it is really just to go back and edit after the fact. If you're if you're planning a CAB, let's say you're on a CAB 5, and you're ready to do some nice long bits of chains, and all of a sudden you just see the most beautiful transition than you've ever witnessed from the student, and you say, that is surprise Shorty worthy, and you hit it with the reinforcer. Great. And the trial right there, and then you go back in like Alex is showing you right now, and you take off the other pieces of the chain that you didn't run. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah, that's right. One thing too to look at is the regular intervals of the surprise shorties. Alex, if you want to start a new session real quick, we could take a look at that. Oh, we're still in a session. Okay, great. If you scroll down, let's see. Looking at, so if you change the, let's see, actually go back to the student's configuration and let's set them up for long cab. So let's change the toleration response to, yeah, let's go ahead and do 2. So if we go back to the session, and you scroll down, okay, we see that we're just expecting a CFCR. So this is kind of our surprise shorty for, we're expecting up to a CAB 3 or a CAB 6 or CAB 5. So if you hit shuffle plan, then we'll generate a new plan. And so this one, we end the surprise shorty is on a TR. So our terminal one that we're focusing on right now is actually a CAB 5, but sometimes the EO plan, it'll stop up short. And that's kind of the way that we look at doing surprise shorties here.
That's an easier method. Just hit your shuffle button a few times until you get a shorter chain.
So, and then here it'll show you just one work unit during that cab 5 rather than the, 5 or 10 or however many you're targeting up to.
Awesome. Sarah C has 2 questions. If you want to turn on your mic, you're welcome to, or I can ask your questions for you. It's up to you. Oh, just one. Just kidding. One of them got answered. You there, Sarah?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, great.
Okay. So I think for the cab 6, you were saying it would randomly tell you how many demands, or for the cab 5 and 6, I guess, but it would tell you how many demands to run. Is it giving you a specific number, or would it say kind of what's up on the screen now? I thought earlier you had said it would tell you like 10 demands or a number at random.
Yeah, it'll give you a random number. The way it's configured, I think it's similar to how you've seen the workbook. Like, for example, 1, 3, 6, 10, 10 plus, something similar like that will show up here where it says 1 work unit. So it won't always say 1 work unit. Sometimes it'll say 6. It'll say 10 plus, 3, 2, random amount of work units during cab 5.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So my question was, can you customize how many work units you put in there, or will it automatically be that 1 to 15?
You can customize, yes.
Okay.
And I can pull that open, and Craig, I might just need a little bit of your help, but I know where to pull it
I
open.
posted a link, so you can customize it. This is a little trickier. This is one of the advanced options that's kind of scary to look at, but it makes a little sense if you look at it. But let's see, the modifier expression is what we want to look at. So I think this is the cab 5. So this is a Lua expression. So a lot of the advanced options are actually a programming language called Lua, and it's a fairly simple programming language, but you can get a lot of flexibility out of it. And so basically what we're looking at in this expression is we're randomly choosing a uniformly distributed, we're randomly choosing either 1, 3, 6, 10, or 10 plus for the cab 5. And you can change this expression to something else. And so actually, no, this one's a little more complicated. Actually, if you open up a cab 6 should be a little simpler to look at for the expression. Yeah, so this one's a little simpler. So basically, we're choosing 1, 3, 6, 10, or 10 plus. In the last one in cab 5, it's a little more complicated. What we're actually looking at is based on how far they are in cab 5. Alex, if you want to scroll up a little bit. Let's see, yeah, in the cab 5, if you click on the modifier expression for that, here we go. So what we're looking at with this one in English is basically we have, depending on how far we are within the cab branch, the part that says EO trial results cab 5, 8. What we're doing is we're actually looking at the previous data that we have for the student, and then based on that, if the last, out of the last 8 trials, at cab 5, if there's 0, 1, or 2 successes, then we're only going to pick 1, 3, or 6. But if we have 3 or 4 or 5 successes out of the last 8, then we can also tack on 10. And then if we have 6, 7, or 8 successes within the last 8 trials, then we tack on the 10 plus. And so this is kind of the way that we do the cab 5S, cab 5M, and cab 5L is we'll tack on. We'll have the 1, 3, 6 to start with the S, and then we'll tack on the 10 once we get to the M, and then we'll tack on the 10 plus when we get to the L. But other than that, it'll still uniformly choose one of those values.
Awesome.
And you can program any Lua thing to change it to whatever you want, but these are the default ones that we have.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That sounds super helpful. I don't even know why I would change it if it's that advanced. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have one more question. It just popped into my head. There's been a lot of chatter about microshaping and all of the things that go into microshaping. So if you're running your cab 1, do you mind if you should, can you look at the cab 1, when you set up your modified cab branches and you add your cab, I guess that's in the other one, the cab 1 or the cab 2, does it prompt you to do like a cab 1A or cab 1B, or are you making that decision on your own? And if you are, is there a way to track, is that a super scary advanced non-English version thing too? I'm just wondering if you do have, you know, a learner who really needs you to break things down and be very slow in your progression of the EO, is there a way to track that in the app?
At this time, there's not. No, there kind of is for, I guess, Cab 3 and onward, but for Cab 2 and before that, we don't have any of that yet. I'm sorry.
So it just prompts a Cab 1 or Cab 2, but doesn't say like the Cab 1 breakdown. Cab 1C, for example.
Right.
Awesome. Anyone else have any last questions? I think that's everything that was in the chat. Sorry, Meg, I forgot you. My bad. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. I am really excited to interact with the app. It doesn't seem as much of an unknown entity at this point. I love it and really grateful for the time and the ability to share this with the community as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you too. It's wonderful to have the opportunity. Have a great night, everybody.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.